Welcome back to the Code 1098 True Crime Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This case takes us back to Moscow, Idaho. On November 13, 2022, the police discovered the brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students at an off-campus home. We initially covered this case in episode 21 from season 1 and the case update that followed. Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were all stabbed to death with the same knife. A suspect has now been charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary. Brian Koberger was arrested on December 30th, 2022 at his parents' home in Pennsylvania. The 28-year-old PhD student of criminology at Washington State University lived just 8 miles from the scene of the murders. Since the arrest, court records have made more evidence public. They say that Xana Kernodle had received a DoorDash order at 4 a.m. She was also on TikTok until 4:12 a.m. The white Elantra that police were looking for had already made its 4th pass by the house around 4:04 a.m. One of the surviving roommates has said that she first heard what sounded like Kaylee Goncalves playing with her dog. Soon after, she believed that she heard Kaylee say, "There's someone here." The roommate looked out her door and didn't see anyone. Sometime after that, she heard what sounded like crying along with a male voice that said, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." This was coming from Xana Kernodle's room. The roommate opened her bedroom door and seen a man in dark clothing with bushy eyebrows wearing a face mask walk past her to a sliding door as she stood completely frozen in her doorway. At this same time, a nearby security camera picked up a whimper noise, a loud thud, and a dog barking. Around 4:20 a.m., the white Elantra was caught on camera speeding away from the area. Police zeroed in on finding the vehicle. They were able to identify Brian Koberger as a suspect since his vehicle matched the description. Police were able to place Brian Koberger in Moscow, Idaho at the time of the murders and trace his vehicle movements back to Pullman, Washington, where he lived as a student. The surviving roommate identified him as the man she seen that night. Police discovered a knife sheath on the bed where Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogan were found. That knife sheath contained DNA. Prior to his arrest, Brian Koberger was seen multiple times wearing surgical gloves while outside and had recently deep cleaned the inside and outside of his car. Brian Koberger was tracked by his phone heading to Moscow. The police believe he attempted to conceal his location by turning the phone off between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. His phone also places him in Moscow around 4:48 a.m., not long after the murders were committed. Phone records show that he was near the victim's house at least 12 times prior to the murders, dating as far back as August. All but one of those times were very late at night or very early in the morning. Between the day after the murders and Koberger's arrest, he went on a cross-country road trip with his father. During their trip, they had 2 different encounters with law enforcement in Indiana. By the end of December, Brian was back at his parents' Pennsylvania home. That is when authorities obtained DNA from garbage outside his parents' home. The DNA obtained from the garbage identified that the sample collected was the father of the person whose DNA had been left on the knife sheath found at the scene of the murders. Police still have not identified a motive in the killings or identified whether Koberger had a connection to any of the victims. Their murder weapon has also not been located. Brian Koberger has been extradited to Idaho. The next preliminary hearing in the case is scheduled for June 26th. Koberger has waived his right to a speedy trial. Thank you for listening to Code 1098. Head over to my Patreon page to join the discussion about this case and others. Thank you for tuning in today.